Now, I've hinted around this subject, and I've tried not to say it because every time I say something about an artifact, about 3 hands shoot up and go, what on earth is an artifact? An artifact is a catch-all term. Anything that you put in your portfolio, whether it be a PDF document, a video file, a photo, any item that you put in your portfolio is considered an artifact. So, whenever I talk about portfolio, I use the word artifact as a giant umbrella term. Now, artifacts are pretty much up to you. Most of us will start with something fairly simple. We'll start with something like a video, maybe from YouTube, Dailymotion, something like that. But when you're using your artifacts, when you're incorporating your artifacts, there are 2 important things to remember. Number 1, perspective is everything. For instance, these 2 squares are exactly the same. Believe it or not, this is fact. Your perspective right now says that they aren't. Your perspective right now says that they are. So number 1, perspective. What do you want the person to see? What do you want the person to take away from your artifact? The other instance that we need to think about with artifacts is how are you using them? There are all kinds of programs out there that have different portfolio builders. We have one, most universities have one, and there are tons of them online. And they all use artifacts in a slightly different way. Some of them are very linear. They look like a list. Some of them are more like Prezi, where they tend to be floating around. Whenever you have something that is list-based, remember basic psychology. The things that are at the top are assumed to be most important. So, your order needs to reflect that. If you have something that is a hallmark skill to you, your problem-solving ability, or your group dynamics, those things need to be at the top. The rest will fill in the depth of skill. So that's what I mean by how you're using it. The other thing, when we talk about how we're using it, is grouping. There are bunches of different ways to group things. Most of us will start with something like work experience, academic history, community involvement, and then some kind of catch-all category. As we develop and as we get more comfortable with it, the lines start to break down so that you can cluster things in areas of relevance. You might have it based on skills, marketing skills, creativity, communication, event planning. The more comfortable you get, the more you can blur the lines. But in the beginning, try to keep it simple. Try to keep it ordered in a way that you can control, that you have easier management of, because it's really easy once you start getting into artifacts that your artifacts actually start to drown you. And you get so many of them that it's hard to order. So in the beginning, keep it simple, everything will be okay. The other type of artifact that you're probably going to rely on are photos. Most of us have tons and tons of photos. Now, photos are great. They're not the end-all be-all, but they are great. There are 2 tricks to photos. Number 1, every portfolio program has a size limit. In other words, have your information in more than one place. That's why I include things like Flickr and Picasso. When we start out, we want to rely on the things that are easiest, so we're probably going to rely mostly on photos and documents. Have them in different locations. Every portfolio system has the option of embedding an artifact or linking to something else. That's the beauty of the digital portfolio. You don't have to have everything in one place. You can link it out to dozens of different places. Use that. It can make your life a lot easier, especially if you have multiple areas that you're trying to hit. You can link out to a Flickr, you can link out to a YouTube, and it makes your life easier to manage. So, when we talk about artifacts, our main artifacts, artifact number 1 is going to be your photos. Artifact number 2 are going to be your documents, your certificates, your awards. And artifact number 3 are going to be more of your digital presentations. This may be AutoCAD renderings, this may be video. These are going to be more of the advanced things. Whenever you're starting, I always recommend people start with the simplest options first. Start with your photos, start with your documents, and let that fill out and find out where you need help. Then you can bring in other things. Then you can start adding more advanced things. Because if you start with the most advanced things first, a lot of times you're just going to wind up burying yourself. Keep it simple. Things will be okay.